What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Just HoopTalk. You're with Justin Henry, Will Thompson, and we're with Sacramento Kings and NBA insider Leo Beas. He is joining the show. Leo, what's going on with you, my man?
I'm excited to be here, man. It's always fun to hop on with you guys and talk some basketball.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, before we get into it, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the channel. We are a growing network. And today we're going to be talking the Sacramento Kings for a little bit and also the ESPN 25 under 25 list that they just put out. And, man, there were some shockers there. But, Will, what's your thoughts, man? Because we've talked Sacramento Kings a few different times on the show. We've had Leo on. What are your thoughts overall on this team? Because early on in the season, we were like, hey, this team has a lot of potential. It's going to be tough for them to reach it. They're a little thin. And then we've seen them win games, lose games. As a Kings fan, where are you at?
It's hard to get a full read on the team. This whole season has been weird, with injuries, players being out, things going up and down. The Kings are going on these winning streaks and then losing streaks. It's hard to really get a grasp for what this team is or the full potential of the team. But it's, as a fan, speaking from a fan perspective, it's super frustrating. It's frustrating because as a fan, I wonder what the direction of the team is and what the plan is and where things are going. You love the two centerpieces, Fox and Halliburton. Those are the guys I think they're going to be building around for sure from the future. But what's the plan around the Kings? I like some of the moves they made. They got they picked up some mid-level guys at the trade deadline. I wasn't mad at that at all. It looked great. And I think it gave a lot of us a little bit of maybe false hope, I think we hit a little bit of a soft spot in the schedule, and it looked great, obviously, right after the trade. And we got really excited as fans. And then we hit a little bit of a lull, a little bit of false hope. But it's frustrating. But my question is, what's the direction? What's the plan? I hope there's a plan in place. It's felt like for a lot of years the Kings have just been reacting or just doing things and letting things happen rather than having a plan and sticking to it. And so hopefully there's something in place for the future for this team, man. I don't know what it is, though.
Yeah, so we're seeing right now they're on a 4-game losing streak. Leo, I know you've been preaching no tanking, especially with this Monty McNair change, the GM change, and the addition of some of these key rookies and even some G League guys that have come onto the roster. What's your take right now? What is your stance overall on this team and just the direction they're heading?
So Monty McNair said they were value buyers. That's what he described them, the Kings, as at the deadline, and I have to agree with him. But 2 weeks before that, we heard a bunch of rumblings of them potentially getting rid of Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, and just going full restart, rebuild mode, tank mode. But then you kind of heard that Vivek was meddling a little bit, saying, well, nah, I'm trying to make the plan and potentially make the playoffs, especially with everybody getting vaccinated now and, we having games very, very soon, possibly on April 20th. That's what I'm hearing. So hopefully, fingers crossed. So you have these two very unique, interesting dynamics of, well, from the very get-go, I told Justin this, I felt like my gut would say that Monty wanted to restart and just clean house and just stick with Halliburton and with Fox. Yeah. But it seemed like, and obviously, no matter what the truth is, even if the truth is somewhere in the middle, because I was told by multiple sources in the organization that it was a little bit of both, that there was no meddling, but and then that there was some meddling. So obviously the truth is somewhere in the middle. But regardless of what we believe or what's the truth is, who's going to ultimately take the blame or the success? And that's Monty, right? Yep. No matter what happens, he signed up for this job, and he's going to take the blame for whatever happens. And he described us as value buyers. He got a solid player in DeLon Wright for a not very good player and Corey Joseph. Great human being, though. It was a pleasure covering him. It was always a class act. There's nothing bad you can say about Corey Joseph, the human being, but the player, I just felt like it was just past his time, and it's okay. I mean, it's going to happen to everybody in the NBA Father
Right.
time never fails, right? So
Yeah.
they got some value in return. They got DeLon at 8.9. So just say 8 to 9 million next year, which is a pretty good deal, especially when you had Corey Joseph at 12, 13 million, right?
Okay.
Who's not as good of a player. So a guy will not willingly sign in Sacramento for 9 million. So obviously there's value there, but then that kind of constrains you to a salary cap perspective, because now you won't have enough money to sign a guy like Rashawn Holmes. So now you start looking at the room exception, the MLE, and that gets pretty tricky. And that's a whole separate topic in itself.
Yeah.
I don't want to get much into that, but so you get him, then you get TD,
Well,
right?
that's
Terrence
where I want to
Davis.
get into actually
Yep.
with you. I want to get kind of your perspective on that, because it feels almost like a top-down effect, how this team was moving this year. You would think with the new GM, the coaching change would have happened, or maybe a major player personnel change would have happened. We see a Harrison Barnes get moved. We see a Buddy Hield get moved. We see a Rashawn Holmes get moved. And it's like the Kings kind of stayed stagnant. It's almost like the same way that they're playing this season, a little bit of highs, a little bit of lows. It almost seems like that with the roster as well. You get excited when they bring up a guy like Daquan Jeffries, and you see him play and the way he's athletic, and then they let him go. You see the guys, you see him go aggressive for trades, and then, talk about, hey, let's buy out Whiteside so we can let our young players get in. That doesn't happen. And it's like, you can't tell who's in charge right now. Luke Walton, is he going to be fired? Is he going to stay? Does he have control of the team? And you hear the players, they're like, dude, we want to win. We want to win. You hear the Halliburton, you hear De'Aaron Fox, and it's like nothing is equating to either wins or losses. It's just blood. It's kind of both, man. Like, I don't know what to think about this.
So right now the roster isn't bad enough to tank, right? To be a top 5 worst team in the league. And they're obviously not good enough to be a top 5 team or even a top 8 per se. But they're like right there battling with the other mediocre teams, is the Pelicans, the Spurs. They're in a little bit on a losing streak, but I give them respect, because at the end of the day, they are the Spurs.
Yep.
But the Warriors are pretty mediocre. So you have all these teams in this small bubble from 8 to 12 that are just, someone's going to make it, right? And ultimately, it's in the Pelicans. Ultimately, it's going to come down to who executes better, and what I believe in, who has the best player. Like, which player is going to will their team to that last 10 or 9 seed, which then is a 7, 8, and then 9 and 10. And obviously, whoever wins at a 7, 8 gets a 7 seed, and then the 8 gets a second try at the 9 and 10. And I just feel like if the Kings do get into the top 10, that I give them a high possibility, not because I'm a Kings fan, but because I just believe in De'Aaron Fox and the things that he can do when the game is on the line. I don't feel the same about Zion, even though, like, these are two separate things. Oh, would you rather start your team with Zion or Fox? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, down the stretch, Fox has already proven that he can take over a game and win you a game verbatim. Like, this dude will win you a game by himself. Yeah. And I can't say the same about Zion. So when I look at all these teams, the only team that scares me, and to me, I think the Kings are better, are the Warriors, but because they have the star of the NBA. Right. So when it comes down to who has the better star, obviously is there. So to me, it's going to come down to the Warriors versus the Kings for that last 10 seed.
Yeah, I think they're right there too, like record wise.
They're only like a game out.
Yeah, it's kind of who can stay healthy too at this point, man. Like,
yep.
Who can sustain health and go on a little bit of a run, because so many inconsistencies with who's on the court right now.
Yeah.
So the Spurs are 24 and 25. The Warriors are 24 and 27. Pelicans are 22 and 29. The Kings are 22 and 29. So they're 2 games out.
Kings got to get hot. Straight up. They got to get hot. Yeah. And the thing is, you're playing with the Warriors are almost on the same type of trajectory as the Kings. They're not playing very well right now. They got a big win yesterday, but they're not playing very well. And a lot of their issues have been injury driven. We talk about Steph Curry and his tailbone. I think Draymond missed a little time early on in the season. And they've been playing a lot of G League guys too. So I look at them, but then I look at the Kings, and they haven't really had any major injuries. You had Halliburton was banged up for a little bit before the break. Harrison Barnes is banged up for a little bit before the break. I think Rashawn Holmes missed a few games here and there, but it hasn't been one of those things where they've been injured. In the Warriors, it's like if they get to full strength, I don't know how the Kings do compete because of that star power. I'm trying to find a team that the Kings would take their spot, and to me, I just don't see it. I was disappointed because I thought that the Kings would be a little bit more aggressive at the break, either one way or the other. Either, hey, let's go for it, or hey, let's not. And I think that the moves they made were more so, we want to be around, if that makes sense. We just want to be in the playoff picture, which to me is still staying complacent, which is a problem with this Kings organization for the last however many years. Mediocre is the standard. And when you're trying to change the direction of a franchise, when you're trying to change the direction of, you're bringing in a new GM, you have a coach that's on the hot seat, you got players that want to win, you're trying to change the direction of a franchise. To me, it screams, hey, we're cool with staying the same. We're cool with not spending on the players. We're cool with letting the Bogdanovich go. We're cool with letting Rashawn Holmes go. We don't want to make an aggressive move and pair Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes together to go get a young player. Aaron Gordon was on the block. Like the Kings, that would have been a perfect situation for them to be aggressive and get a player like Aaron Gordon. You see what he's doing in Denver now. I feel like the Kings fans.
I'm not very high on Aaron Gordon. I mean, it's really like a love-hate with that guy.
To get some type of star power to go with De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton, that might have been a great fit. He doesn't have to be the main guy. He could just be the third piece, the fourth piece.
Not really. I mean, Harrison Barnes is better than Aaron Gordon, and I'm gonna say that right now.
Not long term.
But right now, he's better than Aaron Gordon. I mean,
right now,
I don't think it's even close. Like AG, like when I look at him and I look at his entire career, 3 years ago was his best year, right? And the last 2 years have been so mediocre. One can say, okay, well, he's been in a bad situation. Or you can say, well, he's not competitive enough to be that alpha dog, to be that guy that he got paid to be. So which one is it? Like, is he not competitive enough to say, fuck, man, like, I'm that guy? Or does he have to go be a fifth fiddle in Denver?
I think sometimes when a player like Aaron Gordon, though, he has to figure it out. Because you look at Harrison Barnes, and Harrison Barnes is in year, 8 right now? Year 7, year 8, just figuring it out. And Aaron Gordon is the type of player who was always known as the dunk contest champion, but an underrated defender, underrated playmaker, and somebody who can get rebounds in the glass. And the Kings kind of need a wing that can defend. I mean, you're getting that out of Harrison Barnes now, but long term, if you pair that with De'Aaron Fox, you pair that with the Halliburton that can push the pace a little bit, I think it's a great fit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that, but I'm just saying in terms of perception league-wide, when you really study his game, he hasn't improved much. And I get it. He's 25, 26 years old, which is young, but he's been in the league a long time. And he just hasn't improved his game the way he should have improved the game. So when he had that great year where he was like an all-NBA defender, his career has gone down. So he's gotten worse. So that's why his stock was so low. So when I see that, I can't help but just think like that scares me, because if I'm going to invest in him and trade away assets, which version of AG am I getting? So when, I spoke to a coach, they said, well, if he's in the right situation, he's going to be really good. Yeah. And then I was like, so he has to be in the right situation to be good? Like he can't just be good because he's a basketball player? Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm like, okay, this guy's a good role player. Like that's all he is to me. Yeah. Like that's why I'm not going to invest X amount of assets to go out and try to get a guy like that who's incredibly inconsistent. Like he's consistently inconsistent.
It's one of my favorite terms to use. Used it about some of the other players there on the team. But I think you make a good point. I think you make a good point though. It's about getting, but it is about getting that next step. So for the Kings right now, in your perception, and Will, I want to get your take on this too. In your guys' perception, how do you feel the direction should change? The season is short, right? We know we don't have very much time left in the season. The Kings are not right now in the 10 spot. They're not in the 9 or the 10, and they'll be playing to get that spot. Is this a team that should be looking at evaluating talent for the future seasons, or is this a team that should be still pushing? I know they're not out of elimination yet, so technically they should. But is this a team that should be looking at this time to evaluate some of the young players and see who's in the building? Because right now it seems like I know Leo, you're going to be on my cap about this. No tanking. it does seem like the type of time with this draft class, even though it's not as star powered as others, it does seem like the time to be like, you know what, we got to evaluate what's in the building so we can move forward with this team.
Yeah, I think this year, the rest of this year is going to be a big test for pretty much everyone involved with the Kings. I think they decided, let's play this out. Let's see how this goes. Let's see what we can do with the team as is, and how this season goes, I think will determine what happens in the offseason. I think if they end up in the 11th spot or the 12th spot, I think there's going to be some changes, dude. And I think if they can sneak into that 9th seed or 10th seed and get in the play-in game and get some momentum going, get the fans feeling good about things, I think they might stick with things. But I think if they fall out of that top 10 and they're not in the playoff or the play-in series or situation, I think it's going to be hard for them to just sit back and not do anything. They're going to feel a lot of pressure from the fans, and they're going to have to make some changes, whether it's, coaching or moving players or whatever they got to do. I think the rest of this year will say a lot moving forward.
So I guess the question is, what do the Warriors want to do? You know what I'm saying? I think they're in a very interesting situation too. So do they sit out Steph Curry, right? Like they did last year, where we knew he was healthy, but they literally sat him. Do they want to get younger and get an extra piece in a very deep draft?
Yeah.
They are the Warriors. They do have Clay just sitting there trying to get healthy. So the way they are now, the Kings and the Warriors, arguably in a 7-game series, it can go either way. I think they're pretty evenly matched when you actually compare both teams. So one of these two mediocre teams is going to win the 10 seed. Yep. It just comes down to like which which organization is looking at. I feel like it's going to ultimately be the Kings, because to me it makes more sense for the Warriors to just sit them out a little bit, see what you have in Wiseman. We know they're going to be legit contenders next year, and if you add another piece to that puzzle, see they have a true direction because they have a legit superstar in Steph. Yeah. And the Kings, to some degree, do too, but it's a little bit different because, Fox hasn't proven the same stuff that Steph has. So I just feel like for the sake of the Kings, it means more to them to try and make the play-in and potentially make the playoffs. I think it's so it'd be the Spurs and the Kings. So it'd be Spurs Kings. The Kings would beat the Spurs, but then they would have to face
before you get in there, the Warriors. I want to talk a little bit more about that Warriors Kings dynamic, because we do have the NorCal Fall here. The Warriors, to me, actually have a better build right now than the Kings for a playoff series. When you're talking about guys that need this, like Stephen kind of needs this for his legacy, because he hasn't really done anything since KD left. Obviously, there's been a few injuries there, but he for his legacy purposes, he hasn't done anything without Clay, without KD. Neither of them. And then for the team, some of the other players on the roster too, you have a guy like Wiggins, Kelly Oubre. I'm sure one of them.
But Draymond said that the playing don't motivate him.
It doesn't, but he wants to play, guarantee. And they got to get Wiseman some time too. It would be very
not getting top 8. They not getting top 6. So if he says the playing doesn't motivate him, then the playing doesn't motivate him.
They still got to get in there. They have to get in there to get the experience for these guys. They got to get the playing experience is going to help out Wiggins. It's going to help out James Wiseman, players that haven't been in that situation yet, so that next year when Clay does come back and they got Curry healthy finally, they got Dre, they got the Wiseman on year 2, now they're ready to go. I think this is a big year for the Warriors, because if they miss the playoffs again, that starts to set a different tone, because we don't know what's going to happen. Steph has proven that he can't really stay healthy for an entire season. Clay hasn't been healthy in 2 years. Draymond's getting older, a little bit slower, a little more devalued. Wiggins and Oubre, it's like we don't really know the direction right now. And Wiseman, he's been struggling out the gate. I think this is a huge opportunity for the Warriors to come in and just let Chef cook. If Chef gets hot, that could change the whole series.
But then if he gets injured again, then they're really screwed. Like then they have nothing to look forward to.
You got to play the games. You got to play. Like the same thing for the Kings. You're talking about no tanking. I feel like that's with the Warriors. Yeah, they got their wins. You start talking about Steph Curry though. He's got to be looking at these last years, his legacy years. What can I do without these other players? Because the knock on him right now is that he did it early on, but he hasn't been able to do it without any of the other stars.
But the Kings don't have Klay Thompson waiting in the shadows, though. So, like, we can't really devalue Steph's greatness because he doesn't make the playoffs this year. I mean, let's be honest, his team is awful. Like, without Steph Curry, they are arguably the worst team in the West.
Yeah,
Like, they are god awful.
Crazy.
Like they are. So don't tell me that Steph isn't great no more. Like, Steph has carried this team to 24 wins. So it's to me, that's an accomplishment in itself. So I don't take or buy the narrative of his legacy. Like his legacy is cemented. Like if he retired today, he would be the top 12 player in NBA history, at least top 12 in my eyes. Easy.
Nah, not easy. I think top 20.
Easy.
I'll give him top 20. Top 20.
Oh, stop it.
Top 20. Top
Bro, he's
20.
the best point guard to ever live.
Best point guard ever lived? No,
Ever.
I think something
Ever.
you probably forgot, Magic. You forgot to Stockton up
Better
there.
than Magic.
You probably forgot a couple players up there. You had to, man.
Bro,
Hey,
Steph
listen.
changed the game. Steph changed the game forever.
Allen Iverson changed the game, though. You can say
No,
Allen
but
Iverson
Steph
changed the game. He
Steph
did.
legitimately changed the game. The way we
Allen
play the
Iverson-
game today is because of Steph Curry.
I put Allen Iverson right below Steph Curry. They're same tier to me because honestly, Steph Curry ain't done it on his own. Allen Iverson couldn't do it on his own. And they're both players who changed the game and changed the generation, more so media culture than anything. Like, everybody wants to be Steph Curry. They're the right size. AI to me won an MVP. He did the same thing. He went to the finals. He just couldn't get over it. He didn't have a lot of help. But at the same time, I got Steph a little bit above because he got the championship. But AI's right there. They're top 20.
So how do you have Magic over Steph like that then?
We talking about how I got Magic. Magic's the GOAT point guard. The GOAT point guard. He never will be.
So he did it by himself, or did he not have other Hall of Famers with him?
Hey, he did. But I've seen Magic.
So what's your argument there?
One thing I've seen Magic hit a clutch shot in a playoff game in the finals. Have you seen Steph hit the dagger?
Yes.
In the finals win.
Plenty.
In the finals win. What's Steph's play?
Steph blows everybody out. It don't matter.
Steph has one play. Steph has the play versus OKC. Outside of that, if you think about this right now, outside of that, and I love Steph. Steph is a great player. Don't get me wrong. But what play does Steph have outside of the deep three against OKC? The killer shot. Which one does he have? He doesn't have one.
He hasn't had the great final series, but I think we can all agree he's definitely the greatest shooter of all time. I think he's solidified. He's locked that in. I want to get back to the Kings because I think we're talking about the Kings and the Warriors kind of battling out. We were talking about the Warriors like potentially shutting it down. I think one thing the Kings have on their side is like desperation, man. I think people's jobs are on the line. I really do think a lot of people's jobs are on the line. I think they know it. And it's not just the coach. I think some players' futures with this organization are on the line, man. And I think
facts.
We're going to see that kind of come out here at the end of the year. At least we hope that would affect the outcome of this season.
No, for sure. I mean, De'Aaron Fox puts up 31 points the other night against Timberwolves, and the same old, the bench. Like, look, the starting five for the Kings is extremely solid. Like, they are top 10, top 5 guys. The whole issue has been the whole year. They have no depth. So what they go do? They went out and they got depth. But these types of players, like the DeLon Wrights, who's I think is solid, Terrence Davis solid, it takes a little bit of time to actually acclimate them into the system, whatever the system is for Luke Walton. But, it takes a little bit of time. So they had about 11 points combined last game. That's similar. That's pretty similar. Similar to what the old bench was producing. So if your bench doesn't produce, then it's going to be tough to win the game. Like, they're always scoring. Like, the Kings can score. It's just a matter of getting timely stops when they need to get them. And, D'Lo, for whatever reason, loves playing against the Kings. Boy got ice in the veins, and he just loves to kill that team for whatever reason, man. All these dudes love to play against the Kings. Drew Holiday got $40 million a year. And then, I don't know if you guys remember, the year before, Drew Bledsoe got extended, and he got that wild contract from the Bucks as well. And the Bucks are very similar to the Kings in the sense that they have to overpay for everybody. To think that Drew Holiday, who I love this guy, to think that he's a $40 million player is just beyond ridiculous. But that's what small markets have to do. Like, they're going to overpay for guys, and they're in the exact same situation as the Sacramento Kings. Like, small markets, you know, the Bucks are like the O2 Kings, right? Like, they're right there on the verge of, you know, trying to win a chip, and you know they still have the MVP of the league. So that'll be interesting to see. But you're right, Will. Like, there's a lot of desperation right now, and you know, Buddy's job's on the line. Harrison's, Rashawn's playing for the biggest contract of his life.
Oh yeah.
You know, you heard million, which is I'm telling you guys right now, like it's smokescreen. He's gonna get 15 to 16 from the Kings, 17 to 18 from the Bobcats, from the Hornets, and then he's gonna get 13 to 14 from the Mavericks. So those are the only 3 teams I see him going to. So I'm giving you guys what I think are real estimations of what's gonna take for him to sign. And I think all 3 situations really fit his game, because you got LaMelo in Charlotte. Obviously, you got Luka in Dallas, and you know he's had a great role with the Kings, and you got De'Aaron Fox. So you really can't go wrong. Now it just depends on where he feels is best. Either way, he's going to get paid by any of these 3 teams. But the Kings have to find a way to get to the $15 million mark, because as of today, they're only allowed to offer him $11.75 per season. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not gonna get it done. That won't get it done. So they have to essentially shed Bagley's contract on draft night and then have that money available 7 days later for free agency. So people are like shitting their pants right now, thinking, "Oh my God, they don't have money." But I'm like, okay, it's gonna come down to it sucks to say that you couldn't get nothing for Marvin Bagley. Yeah. Even if he's a salary dump, then that's what it's going to take to keep Holmes. Then that's a risk that I'm willing to take. And I hate to say, because obviously potential, blah blah blah. But if it comes down to Holmes and Bagley, bro, I'm dumping Bagley.
Yeah, and especially you got to take advantage of that prime right now while De'Aaron's still they're heating up, and you got the young nucleus there together. You don't want to mess that up. And
he's only 27. Like people act like Holmes is old.
Yeah,
he's a young dude.
And when you start talking about you, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. We talked about Bagley, and I think it's easy to just be like, hey, potentially this player can be this, or potentially this player can be that. It's tough to evaluate talent, because at an age of 23, 24, we've seen players continue to ascend, maybe hit it a little bit later, hit their peak a little bit later. And we've also seen, hey, these guys have so much potential, and they just continue to fall off the cliff that they're on. Bagley, we hope, obviously, is going to trend the other way. But ESPN put out their top 25 under 25 list. I'm going to read it off to you guys. And then let's kind of just dissect some of these names on there. I'm going to go real quick and then give initial feedback on some of the names, Will and Leo. So number 25, we had Colin Sexton. 24, Lonzo Ball. 23, Jared Allen. 22, John Collins. 21, our boy Tyrese Halliburton. Number 20, DeAndre Ayton. Number 19, Anthony Edwards. Number 18, Sabonis. Number 17, Mikal Bridges.
I love that kid.
I do too. We'll get into it. Number 16, Trae Young. Number 15, Ja Morant. Number 14, Michael Porter Jr. 13, Jamal Murray. Number 12, Jaylen Brown. Number 11, Brandon Ingram. Number 10, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Number 9, Bam Adebayo. Number 8, Devin Booker. Number 7, Ben Simmons. Number 6, De'Aaron Fox. Number 5, Jason Tatum. Number 4, Donovan Mitchell. Number 3, LaMelo Ball.
Joke.
Number 2, Zion Williamson. And of course, number 1, I think it's undebatable, Luka Doncic.
Yeah. So I'll give you my top 10 right now, because
all right, let's do it.
Because I mean, I literally did a show on this earlier. So obviously Luka number 1. I had JT on number 2. I had Donovan Mitchell on number 3. I had De'Aaron Fox on number 4 with the potential to be number 2. Obviously, to me, Fox is so good to me because he plays defense in the fourth quarter. So now it's can it click up here for him? And if it does, like, this guy is a game changer on defense when he wants to. But when you exert so much energy, when you're such a high usage player offensively, and when you are the entire offense, it's incredibly difficult to always play defense for an entire game.
Yeah.
So, let's be realistic about things. Can he just set the tone in the first quarter and then be himself in the fourth defensively? And I think his game is going to, take a huge spike in the right direction, which is why I have him at number 4. And number 5, this may shock people too, but I have Shea at number 5. Shea is like just a tad under De'Aaron in terms of just so much potential. I think the big difference is that he's a better defender just overall with better anticipatory skills and better instincts. But then Fox has that insane speed demon, right? Like, I think that's the big difference. But they're right there. And to me, Shea, his ability and the things he's done from being really good with the Clippers, but then obviously the Clippers having to get rid of him to get a guy like Paul George, you have to give something good to get something good in return.
Right.
And now he's just taking, the league by storm in the sense that he has no talent in Oklahoma, and he's managed to win like 20 plus games.
Yeah,
so to me, that's insane. And I think he's only going to get better. Like, this guy is just a silent killer. At number 6, I got Zion. Obviously, you can say a lot of things about, he can't shoot, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, if he can ever just develop a 15 to 70 foot consistent jump shot, it's over. And then I got Devin Booker at 7. I mean, D Book is just the ultimate offensive player, right? Defensively, he's not great, but I feel like if he can just become a solid team defender, the rest will take care of itself. And then at number 8, Ben Simmons. That's a guy that if he ever gets a jump shot, he can easily be the second best player on this list. Like, he's that good. He's elite defensively. He's a great playmaker in transition. At number 9, Bam Adebayo. Super undersized, but he's a jack of all trades. He can do it all defensively, extremely versatile. He's the modern day center. He is what a lot of teams want when they look into the draft. Like, guys like Evan Mobley, like, oh man, he's the next Bam, or whoever, like a Congo, he's the next Bam. Like, we're always trying to look for the next Bam. So he's already set that standard of, okay, this is what we want, a guy that can do it on both ends. And he's only getting better offensively. So he went from like high 60s, low 70s to 86% from the free throw line. Shout out to my coach, Rob Fedor, who has helped him in that journey. And that's an incredible, like, people don't understand, like, 86% from going from like low 70s to 86. That's a huge jump. Like, that's massive. That's elite. Like, 86%.
Bron can't do that. LeBron, he can't even do that.
I've never done that. So I got Bam at 9. And talking with you guys and seeing this entire list, because I thought it was just the top 10 under 25. For some reason, Jaylen Brown just did not cross my mind. But if I can do it all over again, I'd put Jaylen at 10. But earlier in my show, I had John Morant at 10. So Ja would be 11 now. So I'd have Jaylen at 10.
You mean De'Aaron Fox isn't trying to be John Morant anymore?
I mean, the only thing that I would take from his game is just that dog, right? Like, he just plays with the chip on his shoulder. Like, if De'Aaron had that, he'd be number 1, but he doesn't have that. And like, you have to. Do you think you're born with that or no?
You have to be. I think it's a personality thing.
Okay.
And I have 3 boys of my own, and I can see different traits in each one of them, and it's something that. It comes down to, I think the alpha beta is a part of that, but then also just your mental, like, do you panic when things get rough? Because a lot of times when people panic, they're on alert the whole game. And then sometimes other people are too calm. And so for the game, when things aren't going right, they're okay with missing a few shots and not, kind of being a little more chill. So I think there's more of a personality thing, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's
right.
Episode, huh?
Yeah, man. And just going over your list, the one shocker, the big shock to me, obviously, is Shea. Like, having him number 5. over people like Ben Simmons to me, over Devin Booker, over a Bam. Like to me, that's kind of like I there's no way
He
I'd put him
gets no
over
love
there.
though because nobody watches Thunder games.
I think that I think that he's undervalued in the NBA community. But when you're talking these guys, like you're talking all-star players, like potential Olympians, like these are big names. He just doesn't have that yet. I think he could develop into that. But there's players I would take even over him that we haven't even mentioned yet.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're talking, so the 10 guys I have listed, and this isn't in any particular order yet. I didn't put them in order. The 10 guys I have checkmarked as like my top 10: Luka Doncic, Zion, Donovan
At number
Mitchell.
2?
No. This is in particular order. I haven't had the luxury of putting together my top 10 yet. So I'm just going off of, like, to me, LaMelo is not in the top 10. Shea is not in the top 10. So I'm just going off of the names. So we got Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Ben Simmons, obviously, Devin Booker, Bam, and then the three that weren't on the list: Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, Michael Porter Jr.
Wow, Michael Porter over Shea Gilgeous, that's crazy
100%,
to me.
100%.
That is disrespectful. Holy smokes.
How would Shea to me is like he's an eventual 26
Bro,
guy.
Shea would make that team the team in the NBA.
They already are the team in the NBA with Porter Jr. They're the team right now.
My boy is one of the worst defenders in the game.
I agree. He's going to get better, though. He'll get better just because of the natural side.
Shea is elite.
You know,
like,
he'll get better,
Shea's elite.
but Porter Jr. is elite offensively.
Shea averages like 25 a game.
I'm just saying, but he's the only player on that team. On OKC,
is this true?
The only player. If Porter is on OKC, he'd be averaging 30. Let's be real. There's no other talent on that team.
He'd be giving up 32, though.
You're probably right.
What's his plus minus, you know?
I think we're talking potential, though. He has the look of, like, best player in the league at some point in his career. I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure Shea has that right now. So when I look at Porter Jr., I'm looking at 30 points, 25 to 30 points a game. I'm looking at 10 boards a game. Maybe a block at some point in his career, averaging a block and a steal a game. Like, that's what I look at when I see him.
So do you see him like a KD?
Absolutely. His ceiling is KD to me. And maybe on a little bit lighter scale, but his ceiling is KD. And I don't know that he gets that on Denver, though. That's they got Jokic, they got Murray. And Murray, they're invested in. Jokic, obviously, they're going to be. They're both going to need contracts, Jokic and Porter Jr. So I think Porter will be looking to leave Denver after getting a championship at some point in the next 3 years.
Oh, you got Denver winning it?
They're going to win at some point. That team's scary. That team, they're not missing anything. They play well. They're well coached. I think that they have the best player in the game right now. Obviously, with Jokic, the way he's playing, the best player in the game right now. Okay. And then when you have the ability to have two scorers that can light up for 30 on any given night alongside with that, and, I mean, Jokic is a 30-point guy himself if he really wants to be. The offense is running through him right now. They're going to be tough. And just adding a 15-point score in Aaron Gordon, like you said, an elite defender at some point in his career, he can get that back easily. That's going to be a tough out, man. With the vets that they got, too, they're going to be a real tough out, man. But I think he complements him on this list. To me, he has the most potential if he gets in the right situation. I also see a guy like LaMelo. I think that LaMelo, to me, is probably closer to where his brother is, Lonzo Ball. I think that he scores a lot more, so he's more exciting as a player. But where Lonzo is truly undervalued is what he brings defensively and basketball IQ-wise. If you watch him play and you understand the game, you know his value. And I think that he gets truly disrespected by the NBA community. I got LaMelo probably a little bit closer where Lonzo is.
So I'm wondering, like, is this list based on potential or is it right now?
It's all potential. It's all potential. They're like, who could be the best?
I think there's a guy on this list. I'm not going to go through my top 10 because it's similar to your guys', but there's a guy I think isn't getting enough love, but should, and that's Jamal Murray. Like, I think a guy that's, like, really, he's done it, man, in the playoffs, really delivered for his team. Still has a lot of potential as well. He just isn't in anyone's top 10 right now. But I think if I had my top 10, I didn't take the time to put it together, but he's going to be in my top 10 for sure, man. Like, even just based off his playoff performance last year. And I lean more towards the guys who've done it, like a Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, guys who have proven it at a really, really high level. I like Shea a lot, but I just haven't seen it at the highest level. But I love his game, though.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think I lean more towards those types of dudes, though.
If you're chilling with us in the comments, let us know who you guys like that's not in the top 10. Give us your feedback. If you want to post your top 10, we'll comment on it too. Let's get to some of these other names down here. And Leo, one name that really stuck out, obviously, and I'm glad they included him on this list. Number 21, Tyrese Halliburton, man. You think he's getting his just due, or you think that's still a little underrated?
I think it's fair.
DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. It's definitely respect for a player on the Kings. Like, I never thought he'd be like top 25, even though I know he is, but like to get the recognition is a whole separate thing. And they gave it to him, which is a pretty cool thing. But just a question for both of you, because I had this question asked from one of my co-hosts earlier, and it's a guy like Jason Tatum. Why do I keep saying Jason Thompson? Jason Tatum, and a guy like Brandon Ingram. Obviously, one guy was number 3 and the other guy was number 2, and respectively in their drafts. Do you, when you look at these types of lists and when you just from a perception perspective, do you think that if BI would have been drafted by the Celtics, so like if just say you swap those two guys, would their careers be different right now, knowing that Jason he literally went to a great situation with great players around him, great culture. And then, BI at the time when the Lakers were very dysfunctional, bunch of mess, and with injuries, it just didn't help him. And before he got to the Pelicans, a lot of people, he's a bust, he's this. But I'm like, nah, like just wait. Like I see all this upside in him, and he finally showed that with the Pelicans, and he showed that right before he got that blood clot with the Lakers. I don't know if you guys remember. He was like his last 10 games with the Lakers, he was just killing it, and I was like, okay, this is the BI that I've been looking for a long time. So do you take that into account when you rate or when you think of a player, knowing that situation to some extent matters?
That's a good point, man. That's a really interesting question, because the world was almost handed to Jason Tatum, right? Like,
right.
Keys to a really fast car. And not to mention, like, we saw him all the time. Like, they're always on TV. They're always in the spotlight. He's doing commercials. They're making deep playoff runs. So he's given more shine, but also at the same time, a lot of pressure was put on him as well.
Yes.
A lot of pressure to perform in big-time games, at big-time moments. You remember him when he was young, dunking on LeBron in the finals. Like, he did some special things as well. So not everybody's built for that. So there's a give and a take there, man. I don't know if Brandon Ingram, to me, seeing him early in his career, I don't know if he would have been ready to step into that role and play that role and be that dude early in his career. He just didn't seem like he was that guy, but I could be wrong, though. That's one of those things you'll never know, man. Situations are huge. Who you're drafted by, when you're drafted, is huge in a player's career path.
100% agree with that. I think that when you look at on the surface of Tatum and Ingram, they have not even similar skill set. I think they're similar size. They bring some of the similar things to the table. But you're right. One was drafted to a team that was building to make a deep playoff run. The other was built kind of in a collection, and then he got tossed aside. When LeBron got there, they're like, all right, we're changing directions. But when you look at it, I think situation does matter. But you have to also take that into account when you're evaluating talent moving forward. So when we're putting together a top 25 list or the potential list, Brandon Ingram, to me, unless he goes to a situation, we've seen Jason Tatum in the playoffs. We've seen him hit the clutch jump shots. Brandon Ingram, up to this point, we haven't seen it. He's been in the league 6 years now, 5 years now, and we have not seen him in a playoff situation or take over a game that we really need to see him do. And whether you're with a good team or a bad team, he's now been on two separate squads, and neither of those teams have sniffed the playoffs. Like, at the end of the day, the player sometimes matters even more so than the situation. And Brandon Ingram, to me, he has it. I just don't think he has the motor of a Jason Tatum. You don't have the killer instinct of a Jason Tatum. And so when you put together talent, yeah, maybe he's just as talented as Jason Tatum, and in the right scenario, he could provide some of that. But I look at Jason Tatum as a player, and I'm like, okay, that guy just has it. He has a special thing that takes a team from playoff team to potential Eastern Conference Finals, potential finals team. B.I. to me, he's not a number one.
But like JT wasn't drafted with that much pressure. Like you had Kyrie, you had Jaylen Brown, and he had somebody else that year. So, the Lakers drafted BI to be that dude. So, and obviously playing in LA doesn't help. Like there's a lot of pressure. And, having a young coach like Luke Walton at the time and just the whole culture, like it was really bad for like there wasn't a guy that wanted to take a meeting with the Lakers. Like it was that bad. So that's why I just felt bad for him in that sense because he was injured. He was always this talented. Like now he's showing it. But to me, it wasn't a matter of talent. It was a matter of situation. I just feel like if he would have been drafted to be like the third guy, like Jason Tatum, like Tatum was, and I think it would have been different. But obviously, like Will said, we just will never know, right?
Well, but I think we kind of do see it because even right now, he's on a team, right? Even the last 2 years, he had Zion, top pick in the draft. He had Lonzo Ball, a point guard who can get him shots. They had Drew Holiday last year. This year, they put veterans around him. Like he's on a good team. They got Stan Van Gundy in there. They changed the coaching up to try to make this thing a positive playoff push. And to me, he's the guy, and he's not taking him there. If you're the guy and you can't take your team there, then what does it say about you? At the end of the day, it falls down on execution. You can have all the potential in the world, the size, the comparisons to KD when he first came out, the draft pick status at number 2. But if you can't execute
but
on
the Celtics
court,
are struggling right now. Like, who is the guy in Boston? Is it Tatum? Is it Brown? Like, he's right. Yeah. Like, there's no more Kyrie. They've had injuries, so it's a real difficult conversation or a topic because it's not black and white. And right now they're 2 games below 500, like the Celtics. You know what I'm saying? So what's the issue there? Like, do they not have a guy? Like, is Tatum not that guy? Is Jalen a better player? Like what? Like, which one is it?
Yeah, it's tough, man.
That's interesting. I think we talked a little bit about that. Like, that's an interesting situation, man, because we elevated those dudes so high, so early in their career. Yep. We said they're great, especially Jason Tatum. He's great, man. He's elite. He's going to be the face of the league. And they built the team around those 2 guys solely, and it doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem like it's enough. And you would think 2 guys who are 2 all-stars, 2 of the top 25 players in the league, like it should work, especially in the Eastern Conference. They should at least be over 500. But
so they won tonight. So they're 500. But still, like they're the number 7 seed in a very weak conference.
You expect way better out of those 2. You're expecting way better, especially out of what we've seen of them last year.
With Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart, and like there's some good pieces there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of bigs, but there's some good pieces there though.
Who else is missing on this list? You guys see anybody else that was missing on the list?
I couldn't.
We got Jared Allen, John Collins on here, Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
And Lonzo sandwiched between all of them at the bottom.
The only person I could think that maybe has a little bit of a gripe would be RJ Barrett. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
like RJ over Sexton.
Over Sexton, for sure.
Or over Jared Allen. I think Mikal, I'm glad he's there. Sabonis may be a little bit too low. Like he should have been a little bit higher.
Yeah. I was gonna say that.
But damn, I mean, like, who do you swap him with?
Exactly.
We have such good players in the league, bro.
I feel like Trey's low as well, but then I look above him and I'm like,
that's
tough, bro. It's a tough thing to talk about.
Like, we can make an argument literally for like my list, your list, Will's list, and it was like, shit, like these kids are really good.
That's
the league is in great hands.
Like, it's in good shape for sure.
The league is in great hands, man. No, this is good, man. I like this combo, this 25 and 25 list, man. Obviously, we got a league full of superstars coming in here, and at least they're showing the Sacramento Kings some love, man. They didn't include Marvin Bagley though.
He should have been like top 5. I have no idea what's going on, man. This is just straight, just disrespectful, bro.
Oh man, no, good times as always, man. Leo, appreciate you coming on talking Kings and this ESPN crazy list here. Any last words? Any parting thoughts?
I think the Kings, if they get into the 10 seed, they'll find a way to beat the Spurs and then beat the Grizzlies to make the 8 seed.
Ooh, I wouldn't expect to hear nothing else out of Cowbell Kingdom.
No, I just think Fox is better than anything that Spurs have. Like if that game, remember this is a 1-game elimination. So if that game comes down to crunch time, Fox will win him the game. And then with John Moran, that's going to be interesting as hell, obviously. But I think Fox embraces that challenge. He knows that there's this John Morant, De'Aaron Fox rivalry, and he's owned his ass. Like he's owned him. So I just feel like if it comes down to that, then I give the Kings an edge just because it's a 1 game, not because it's a series. Because I think the Grizzlies are real nice and they're fucking tough.
Yeah,
they are. Like they have a lot of toughness on that team, man.
I think the Spurs and the Warriors, I would give them both the edge in a 1 game versus the Kings. I like what Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, DeRozan. I feel like those are good pieces. They're really underrated and undervalued. Jacob Poeltl down low. I feel like those are underrated pieces in the NBA community. Like we didn't even see Murray or Derek White even probably sniff this list under 25.
Damn.
Like those are really good players.
Actually, take that back. Murray's on my list, bro.
Murray's on there. Murray's a nice player, man. He's really undervalued, and it's just I think that the league doesn't.
I'm taking Allen out.
Yep.
I'm taking Allen out.
Yeah.
Jeez, he's nice. He's like the doppelganger of like De'Aaron Fox. He's like the Rama version of De'Aaron Fox. But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think Popovich coaching is obviously one of those things I trust him in 1 game versus Luke Walton and the Kings. So, and I think same thing with the Warriors. When Steph's on the court, if he's playing like he's been playing that minutes restriction the whole season, if they let him unleash for 40 minutes, I got the Warriors in that one. But we'll see. I hope we get to see that. I hope we get to see the Kings in the playoffs playing, man.
I want to see some postseason basketball action for the Kings, man.
Let's all go to a game together, man, and just enjoy it, bro.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's coming. Well, things are opening up, and we'll definitely get on right before the end of the season. We got to talk a little bit more Kings. Hopefully, they're making that playoff push. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. Just Hoop Talk, another edition of the books. We're out.